Today on Baby That Movie, we finally learned why it's called a pumpkin and not a pumpcant. Hold on to your Starbucks gift cards and your Target pickup order. We're getting our basic on this week with pumpkin beer.
That's right. Nothing says 90-degree North Carolina fall day like cracking open a pumpkin beer. That's just what I want when it's still shorts weather. Anyways, welcome back. If you're new here, welcome to the madness. I'm John, and next to me is the unofficial record holder for most Trader Joe's pumpkin JoJo's consumed in one day, Harrison.
That's right. What can I say? I eat my feelings. If someone had warned me that Land Before Time was going to be sad, that JoJo record might still be unbroken. Anywho, we're ready and excited to jump back into the Fast Five with you this week. We once again have some beers submissions from you that we're going to include this week, as well as doing our usual scrolling through Untapped, the feed, picking out some great beers you've checked in that we think could become very fun movies.
Yeah, if we didn't filter through the beers you're all checking in and pick the best ones, we'd have 1,000 movies just called Oktoberfest at this point.
And as fun as it is to picture Russell Brand and Whoopi Goldberg falling in love at Oktoberfest, only for Russell to find out he can't fit into Whoopi's great-grandfather's ceremonial lederhosen, and therefore they can never marry. Look, we can only run that kind of high-concept movie once.
Wait, did we actually make a movie about that?
Of course not. What kind of person spends their free time thinking about that stuff, right?
Let's just move on and get that image out of everyone's heads. Okay, so first off, no ads on this podcast because, let's face it, no one wants to be reminded that they're one infomercial away from buying their next useless gadget. But beer and subscribing to this podcast, that's the closest thing to free joy you're going to get, my friend.
That's right. Thanks for that, John. And thanks to everyone listening and following along. It's awesome to see you all each week, your comments, sharing your beers with us so we can get you on the show. It's been a blast. So we're gonna keep it rolling and do what we always do to kick off the show officially now. We're gonna jump back into the past, back to last week, and talk about that feature episode. It was another doozy, so we picked Dump Truck of Doom from Mad Mole as our feature movie, and my gosh, what an Autobot-tastic time, John. It was
Autobot-tastic.
Which means different things based on the country you live in, but I'm talking about Transformers unofficially. It's not a Transformer movie.
Nowhere
we can't
near.
say that. But it was a lot of fun. Let's hear some thoughts. What do you have? I'll let you start as always.
Yeah, so first things first, everybody knows this by now. I really wish we would have just made that a movie about twerking.
So do a lot of people. We got some comments. That idea had some legs or some twerks or whatever you want to call it.
Every good twerker has at least two.
At least. Yeah. Yep. As far as I know. Oh my gosh.
After recording that, you'll probably notice if you listen to this podcast that I've picked up a bit of a cold this fall, and I feel like I'm turning into Nick Nolte. I haven't gotten the badass mugshot yet.
Right.
But I do live in the Cape Fear, and I have a Robert De Niro poster, so I'm definitely I'm becoming the Nolte.
It's happening right in front of our eyes. I love that. But yeah, so what else? Do you have any other thoughts from last week? I have a few.
Well, so I felt like last week we really kind of cemented and found our rhythm, building a story week after week or bi-weekly, whatever American language terms. But like there were some expected kind of beer me that movie tropes, which I was happy to include, even subconsciously include. The accent is becoming one of my favorite parts about our films.
Yep.
And I know what you're saying, Harry, with the Autobots, but there was no the whole time. So I feel like there was really no Transformer. It was just an ancient talking truck.
Yes.
And going back and listening to it, I think if we're going to push forward with that one, there was one thread I would have liked to build up more in the beginning.
Yeah.
where Greg is a newcomer to the Psi agency. I want to build the story of his like mentor or trainer who ends up being Victor Thorne. But early in the movie, we view him as kind of like what's his name? Samuel, the Tommy Lee Jones from
from Men in Black.
From Men in Black.
Okay.
And then when you learn there's a traitor and it's
Twist.
Victor Thorne, I want it to be a little bit more gut wrenching.
That could be cool because I think we kind of, as we unraveled that story, kind of came to the conclusion that Victor Thorne created Psi. And so it would kind of make sense that now it's this mature agency. It's got a bunch of agents and former special forces guys killing aliens and monsters. But when Victor just started, it was just him and the dump truck. That's how it all began. And so maybe that is like a glimmer of hope that Greg holds on to as Victor kind of, Greg's down in the dumps. Victor's like, hey, don't knock the truck. The truck can do a lot. And maybe there's even a bit of a foreshadowing there where he stares at the truck for a moment. Victor does. And you almost later you can look back and be like, was he assessing that perhaps like he made a mistake by not disabling the dump truck before his attempted,
or maybe he thought he did.
Right, maybe he thought he did. Sure.
Again, we make these movies up in an hour while we're drinking, pretty much on the spot. So it's always interesting to go back and look and then realize like, oh, there's a couple of things we could have put in here that would have been maybe more cinematic. What about you, Harrison?
Yeah, I like that. That's a great idea. I did have that thought too. I liked that thread pulling on kind of a little bit more of the backstory. And once we kind of figured out who Victor Thorne was and how important he was to Psi, there probably could be plenty we could do in the beginning. I think we mentioned at the end briefly, but like, I like the idea. I always get a kick out of this when it happens in a movie of like in Greg's normal life, he's got directed to some barista somewhere who maybe doesn't really give him the time of day, or maybe does a little bit while everyone else kind of just cuts him in line because they almost can't see him at the coffee shop, but they have a connection there. I think they get together in the end of the movie, but that would be it could even start there to kind of establish Greg as just being, like we said, he's not a loser. He's just kind of like the most average Joe imaginable, which almost makes him invisible to most people.
He didn't have enough moxie, but she was interested in him.
Maybe that's what even makes him desirable to Psi. We had the joke about how like maybe he shuffled his resume in the wrong pile or whatever. Like how was this getting picked with Navy SEALs and Special Forces dudes? But maybe he got like recruited by someone who just like watched people like cut him in line at the coffee shop and like he wasn't even there. They were like, we need people that are invisible, people that society's forgotten about and don't see, like you, Greg. He's like, what the hell is this? I have a job. No, you don't. You lost it last week. We all know that. You're on your last $10 in your bank account. Like, come with me. It could be maybe one of those
drawing pictures of Sarah with your charcoal pen at the coffee shop is not a job.
Right. I think it's actually a crime now. This is 2024. You can't just draw women without their consent. So that would be, this is the Titanic, you idiot. I like that. Okay, cool. So that was fun I like what we're doing now. Other than that, the twerking was hilarious. I hope in everyone's minds that thought that was also funny, you've also imagined that movie and where it could go in the privacy of your own home, or wherever. And Nick Nolte, I think you nailed Nick Nolte's voice. I couldn't get the gravel and the without sounding like Batman or something, but I think you did a great Nick Nolte. And we definitely have an affinity or an attraction to these David and Goliath stories. I think they're relatable. I mean, it's an old story. We've all seen movies like it. They're the fun movies from our childhood a lot of the time, where it's the kids against the world, or the guy has to become Batman, or all that stuff we've kind of seen. But I like them, so it was cool that we did it again. And I do think, again, in this case, Greg doesn't become Batman. I mean, he has a cool scene at the end with the fire sword or whatever. That's great. But really, I think what I hope we tried to show again and again in the movie was Greg was like scared the whole time. And so maybe this is a bit of a meditation on like being brave. I don't remember what the quote is, but it's like bravery isn't being unafraid. It's like being afraid, but still doing what you got to do.
Yes.
And like, that's the reality of it. Like very rarely is someone faced with an army of monsters and then all of a sudden they acquire some fearlessness they've never had. No, you're filling your pants with fear poops.
But you're pushing through.
While you're fighting people with a laser sword, right? Yeah, get changed alone after a battle with monsters. You don't want to. That's not a casual moment. You probably want to do it in the ocean or something, an outdoor shower,
new pants.
Right, exactly right. Maybe new socks, new shoes, the whole works. But I think I thought we tried to do that, and I think we did it well. Of right, not letting Greg transform into a superhero, but keeping him that guy that gets passed over in the coffee shop. Just now, maybe not so much, and that could be a fun ending as he recruits coffee shop girl to go save the world with him.
In a world where so many people are vying for power and influence, I think it's refreshing to see someone not vying for that,
right?
And end up maybe with a little bit of both, but come from a good place. I like your point about how a lot of our movies are like nostalgic. I think of movies I grew up with. They were like Goonies or even
exactly.
Like the movie Overboard was amazing, right? It's like something kind of funny that shouldn't have happened, but it's very Hollywood. Like it's not realistic, but it's relatable.
Yeah.
And it kind of has a good message outside of the fact that he kidnapped an amnesia girl and made her his wife. But, you know, like there's a happy ending. I long for those movies sometimes after watching a really dark, like documentary drama sort of thing where I have to have the captions on. Like sometimes I just want to feel good.
Right, exactly. Sometimes you want to watch an Ice Melter or a Goonies or a Back to the Future or an Indiana Jones or whatever. And those themes show up a lot here. All right,
probably next week too. But before we get to tonight's Fast Five, Harris and I want to shout out someone pretty awesome who's been listening to us since before Beer Me That Movie, going back to not our first podcast, but probably the first one that anyone discovered us on. We had a couple of fun runs early on in the game. But big shout out to Mo Kraus from our fame on Drinking Socially, which was the actual Untapped podcast. Yeah. Mo brewed a beer inside of a pumpkin based on a recipe that Harrison wrote and shared on a Drinking Socially episode. Now, this is going back like, I don't know, 5 years probably.
Boy. Something like that. Yes, it was an episode. And you heard John correctly. He brewed it in a kettle, but he fermented it in a pumpkin. The pumpkin was the fermentation vessel instead of like a bucket or a carboy, which is what you usually use when you're home brewing. And we shared this recipe back in Drinking Socially days a couple years ago. I think one other person attempted it. I didn't get a great follow-up, but Mo did like a write-up. He's got pictures. He grew the pumpkin himself, and this pumpkin was massive. It was a gigantic, huge, almost like haunted-looking pumpkin. It was big. I don't know how he made it that big.
Grew the pumpkin. This is something you could start a brewery and sell that for like $99 a 16 ounce.
Exactly. So, and then fermented in it, did some tastings of it, kegged it off, I think, or bottled it off, and shared that with us. So we always get a kick, obviously, when people reach out about anything, but that was cool to see and hear from Mo, see what he's been up to, still brewing great beer. Mo, you're amazing. And, you reach out at the perfect time, which, I mean, that makes sense. You're making pumpkin beer now because we're all drinking it. But tonight's episode is all about pumpkin beer in a couple different ways, but certainly drinking it. So we're going to start there. We're going to talk about beer now, right? We're going to drink a beer, and then we're going to talk about some beers you guys sent us.
That's why I show up here.
That's right. John's just here to drink.
As much as I view Harrison as like the archetype traditional, he was a brewer. He knows the science behind it. He knows the tradition behind it. I think of all the people I know, Harrison, you like pumpkin beers more than anyone.
I know. I had my 3-year span where I was like, I hate pumpkin beers. I'm a grump and I don't want to have fun. And then I was like, what am I doing? You live once. Let's enjoy some pumpkin beer. So you're right. As much as I love lagers, this is like the time of year where I'm like, let's be basic. I pounded a pumpkin spice latte earlier, so I'm all jacked up, ready to go. I just love. I had a bunch of more pumpkin JoJo's today.
Yeah. There's like there's a cache of empty boxes. That's how I knew where to find Harrison today.
Went through a whole box and had to blame my kids on eating half of it. My wife's like, "Did you eat this whole thing?" And I was like,
we got kids. Yeah.
It's on the top shelf of the cabinet. No one else can reach it. Why don't those pesky kids? They're climbing on things." So yeah, I like pumpkin things. Whatever. You only live once. So pumpkin beer is one of them. I'm going to crack this guy open. This is one of my favorites that we're going to enjoy tonight. I think we even had it on Drinking Socially forever ago. I keep making John drink this beer. So this is Gordgeous. So gourd, emphasis on the gourd. Gordgeous from Noda Brewing in Charlotte. It is a pumpkin beer, 6.4%. The cool thing about it, though, so I'll read from the brewery. Open up a can of autumn with this delicious pumpkin ale made with real pumpkin puree in every batch, paired with brown sugar, ginger root, and hand-cracked spice, including allspice, cloves, and cardamom. Gordgeous contains no cinnamon or nutmeg because it's different than other pumpkin ales. And that's a beautiful thing. So that's interesting about it. It doesn't have the cinnamon or the nutmeg, or a lot of breweries do that. However, a lot of people drink this with cinnamon nutmeg on the rim, so they're still getting it. Yeah. Cool. Do you? But this beer also won the gold medal at the Great American Beer Festival in 2018 and 2020 for the pumpkin beer category, which is 6. So it's great.
2 years winning gold and pumpkin. That's okay. That's some credibility.
Yeah, and it's usually not as sweet as some of the other ones. So
I think as you were talking about this, Harrison, I learned why you love pumpkin beers, because you love puns. And I like Gordgeous. That's clever.
I saw that, was like, give me some of that.
Nose on it.
It is more clovey than
I get a little ginger.
Yeah. And
like, ginger. I'm glad you said ginger, because at first I was like, this smells neat. And when you mentioned ginger, I was like, oh, that's what it smells
that's
like.
All I smell.
Yeah, right.
The power of the mind.
I mean, but it also smells like a classic American pumpkin pie, which is delicious. Yeah. Nothing is wrong with them.
All right, let's get in here. It's been a year.
Ooh. Okay.
Ooh, yeah.
Okay.
It's got that pumpkin like pie punch right at the end, but it's a great. I think it's like an amber ale basically.
It's tame. It's not like it's like a LaCroix pumpkin, right? Yes. I don't mean that disparagingly. Like right. This isn't a lager, but
right.
But it's not like, oh, I don't know if I'm gonna finish this whole thing.
Yeah, it's not like let's dump too much spice in this beer. Let's blow it into the bright tank and put it in every can before we package it. Not doing that. It's there, but it's not annoying you. Ooh,
taste like subtly pumpkin. It's in the room with you. It's sitting there. It's a big orange wall, but it's not screaming at you. It's not like the Kool-Aid Man.
No, I actually want to drink this by a fire and then go scare someone. It's good.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Ginger. Get us in the mood.
And I do appreciate any time you can do something a little differently. Recently, we drank a beer with mayonnaise in it. So I appreciate that when I think of Gordgeous, I'm going to think of like, oh, that's the one with more ginger than a typical pumpkin beer.
Yes. Yeah. Good call.
It stands out.
It does.
So thanks for sharing your beer with me, Harrison. We're going to share our thoughts as this beer affects them. But anyone else that wants to get involved, Harrison posts on social media at least once a week, especially on Instagram. So he's asking for you to submit your favorite beers you've had that week so we can consider them for the Fast Five. Or if you see something just really cool, even if you're scared to buy it, like Rogue Sriracha Ale, actually that'd be a terrible beer movie, but
submit it.
Take a picture, send it to us. Worst case scenario, we tell you that's impossible to make into a movie, but thanks for your support.
Or is it?
Okay, please don't send us Sriracha Ale.
Sir Acha. Mr. Acha.
Okay, coming back to the show. So we had 2 submissions in the last couple of days. One of them comes from, I guess, probably a frequent guest on the show, Greg.
Yeah,
Greg
the
Davis
star
responded
of last episode, the dump truck driver, Greg himself.
But there's a twist here. Yes. Greg responded and submitted Black Tuesday from the brewery, which phenomenal beer.
Amazing beer.
Love you, Greg. But looking back in the archives, we did this back in the early days when we were still figuring this out.
Yeah.
This beer was featured in Fast Five number 3.
Amazing.
At about 23 minutes into that episode. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll put one of those cards up where you can click on it and go verify that I'm not making this up to get out of doing Black Tuesday.
Right.
But we did feature that one, and I think we want to try and stick with the rule that we're not doing remakes. We're not real Hollywood.
Right.
We're going to try and keep
not
the train moving until season 2. Yep. Then we'll just redo all the old ones. But we got another one from Tom Schizler. Hopefully I didn't butcher your last name. Tom responded with a classic to get us started on this pumpkin-y Fast Five, Pumpkinhead from Shipyard Brewery.
Yes.
And he mentioned, did he say in his submission, Harrison, that this one had a cinnamon sugar rim around it?
Exactly right. Tom was living it up. He had Pumpkinhead from Shipyard, and he said, with a cinnamon sugar rim around a fire pit on the last night of summer. So that is the perfect transitional beer. That and an Oktoberfest for like kind of this time of year where the nights are cooler, unless you're in North Carolina. The days are shorter and all that stuff, and fire pits are happening. So Tom is living it up. Great stuff. And this is kind of like the pumpkin beer. This and Pumpkin are the beers I feel like that people maybe know. Pumpkin beers people know the most. So happy to start with Pumpkinhead as beer numero uno tonight on the Fast Five.
So yeah, Pumpkinhead. Okay, we're in. And I haven't even spent a minute pre-gaming. Thank you for shifting. Thank you for shifting into Fast Five. Okay, now I'm in gear.
There you go.
I live my life a quarter mile at a time.
That sounds extremely inefficient. With these kind of gas prices, you moron.
It takes me either 4 hours to get to work or 27 seconds. Spot on.
Right.
Depending on the lights. But so we're going to kick off this Fast Five, Pumpkinhead Ale. Pumpkinhead Ale. Also, Shipyard has begun sort of recently making a Pumpkinhead seltzer. Which sounds both horrible and great, which is my favorite.
That is your favorite
target for a beer.
It shouldn't exist, but I need to try it.
It could be amazing.
Yep, and it might be.
So we're talking about the beer, not that it matters much, but effectively, so this movie would be named Pumpkinhead. We'll drop the ale from the movie.
Yeah.
And we've got a movie called Pumpkinhead. I know what you're thinking, Harrison, and probably everyone watching. Like, I've already seen 500 Pumpkinhead movies on Turner Classic Movies this October.
Right.
I think our goal with these pumpkin movies is to try and come up with a sort of unique take.
Yeah, right. Not go for the right on the pumpkin, right on the nose. We're going to try to be a little whatever, beer me that movie with it. And I think we also are challenging, right, we didn't say this yet explicitly, but we're kind of challenging ourselves tonight to just do pumpkin beer. So hopefully you've been checking them in. So here we go. Pumpkinhead. Well, I had a thought about it. It's not so okay. The logo of this, I believe, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I think the logo is of like the Headless Horseman, is it not? It's certainly a guy on a horse with a pumpkin head.
Yep.
Let's just say it's the Headless Horseman. My kind of initial thought was, okay, Sleepy Hollow exists, Ichabod Crane, we know this story of the adult Headless Horseman, but what if like
I love where this is going.
But why was he so grumpy? Why was he killing all these people?
He didn't have a head.
Obviously. Well, or was he teased in high school? Like, I'm imagining this movie being like, okay, we know that this horseman is an adult. How did he become this horrible horse riding terror that destroyed the small town of Sleepy Hollow? Bullies. And maybe he went to some weird supernatural high school.
Or just a private school.
Or a private school, right. And got teased, and they teased him calling him Pumpkinhead because he's walking around with a flaming pumpkin head. And this would have to be like a school full of other mythical beasts that are like way cooler. Like, I'm a vampire, I have fangs, I can turn into a werewolf, I am a mer person, I can breathe underwater. What do? You just have a flaming pumpkin head? What a loser. And it like follows him basically being bullied into like burning the entire school down. And having, making friends with the horse, and that's his only friend because he's getting
the statue horse that comes to life.
Right, exactly. And he befriends a witch, turns the horse horse alive.
Perfect.
And then, you know, hates Ichabod Crane because maybe they were classmates or something. It's love with the same girl. I don't know.
I love what you've introduced.
Right.
It's an origin story, which also is a great cop out if we have to come up with more pumpkin themed movies based on beers.
Yes.
Gordgeous would have been easier because it's not really. Anyways, so I like this, and my spin would be it's the story of a scholarship kid that goes to a private school, regular private school, as regular as they are.
Sure.
You know, Clayton and Bradley and a bunch of like preppy Cape Coddy names.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Every kid is driving to school in 10th grade with their tricked out Jeep. So this kid is a scholarship kid. His parents couldn't send him there, but maybe he was in physics or he was really good at some lacrosse or something like that.
Sweet.
So he doesn't really belong here. He doesn't live in the neighborhood of these kids. He's already an outsider. And this is easy for the regular prep school kids to let him know. So his whole high school experience is ostracization and getting picked on and bullied. And maybe there's a couple teachers that take pity on him, but he's a regular kid. And eventually he gets invited to like do whatever their version of is when you bring someone hunting for that animal that doesn't really exist. He gets like kind of a Halloween prank.
Got it.
We're like, oh, you're going to come out to the, you know what? We've been really harsh on you.
Sure, of course.
Billy.
Meet us in the abandoned mine.
Yeah, my mom's cousin's sister dated a guy named Billy, so I know what it's like. So like, why don't you come out with us and hang out? And I don't know if the kids do it or something happens, but Billy gets beheaded. The kids are like, oh shit. We might have went too far with this. My dad owns a couple judges, but not beheading judges.
This is
so the kids just leave him, maybe shove him in the swamp, and then they go back to school and he's not there. And he may not come back to life, but at that moment, the movie turns into this kid who Pumpkinhead, he comes back to life as a Pumpkinhead, as sort of a supernatural or ghost, and he's haunting the ones that bullied him,
100%.
Namely the snottiest of all of them, Ichabod.
Yep, 100%. I see it all. It's a retelling of the Headless Horseman in modern times, set inside a prep school, and we call him Pumpkinhead instead of Headless Horseman. This is perfect. Yeah, witch can bring him back to life or some spell or whatever. He's in the bog and the town witch finds him, or just the magic of the bog. We can figure that out. That's easy to Hollywood him back to kind of zombified supernatural life and have him throw his head at people, namely Ichabod. And
that's why
that's awesome.
He mainly attacked the people like of that town, right? So in this case, like of that prep school campus.
Wow. Yes. Why does this movie not exist?
I mean, it seems pretty easy now.
Pretty easy, although maybe the beheading of a kid may get some producers to say, well, never mind. The money's going away for this. But you're a bunch of bums.
Not shooting, beheading.
Yeah,
okay?
Totally different.
Like, no political issue here.
That's right. Who's beheading people? Nobody.
Yeah.
So I hope. I love it. Yes. Perfect. That's a great start. I'm into Pumpkinhead. I want to know what happens next. Holy crow, we may have, I like that one. That one may be right at the end for our final decision.
Great submission, Tom. That's beer number 1. We've got some pumpkin hunting to do. Let's see what's up next. Coming into our second pumpkin beer. Nice. This is a little familiar, but different name. So
absolutely.
Checked in by Brian T from Abomination Brewing. We've got Midnight Snack. Ooh. And if you remember, Rare Snack, that actually got turned into a feature film. So this beer's got some living up to do.
It does. That was a fun feature.
Midnight Snack. And this is, so to be clear, it's listed as a stout, but there's pumpkin involved. So we're classifying this a pumpkin beer.
I think it's like a pumpkin cheesecake beer. Abomination.
That sounds really good.
Not messing around. Midnight Snack. That's a great scary movie name.
Guy that gets up at midnight to eat, and then eventually he gets diabetes, and then he's me.
It sounds autobiographical.
It's the story of my life, really.
It's the slow death of the midnight snack. There's a toll you pay eventually. Oh man, I wish I could wake up and eat in the middle of the night.
Oh, pumpkin cheesecake sounds
If
great.
I had pumpkin cheesecake, I probably would wake up in the middle of the night and eat it. That's how all the JoJo's disappeared in our house. I've been guilty of a midnight snack or two, but let's try not to think about food because we can do better than that.
Midnight snack is suggestive of food, but another thing that comes to mind is like maybe it's a story of like an affair. Like I got a little midnight snack on the side that I hook up with when my wife's out of town.
Midnight snacks.
And she loves midnight sex.
Someone to steer the cheesecake with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
These
are obviously young people because again, if I'm awake at midnight, I'm either eating a cheesecake or I'm not awake.
Yeah, exactly.
At midnight.
That's how it began. She showed up with grocery store sushi at midnight and said she needed someone to share it with.
Right. You test this and make sure it's not going to kill me.
I'll eat the whole thing.
All right, let's go somewhere. Let's go to a park. Okay, I like this, but let's go a level deeper or whatever. How about it's a couple, married couple. The wife, let's say, goes away on like a getaway, a long weekend, a hiking trip. Let's do that. Comes back and is different, and the husband like leaving at night and sometimes not getting in till early in the morning, like, and maybe she thinks she's being sneaky about it, but the husband's noticing and he's like, oh my gosh.
So she doesn't
doesn't
say
it.
like, I have this new midnight job shoveling dirt.
Yeah, nope.
She's sneaking about it.
She's not at the dirt shoveling school. She is instead, well, hold on. She's just leaving and coming back, and mysterious stuff is happening. Goofy stuff, dirty shoes. So the husband's like, oh my gosh, she's cheating on me. She met someone on the hiking trip. They're meeting in the middle of the night. She thinks I don't know.
I like to switch it around. The girl's the cheater.
Right. But then he's like, I'll show her. And he starts to go and do what you were just saying, kind of meet some hussy in the sushi aisle in the grocery store.
Is your name Ashley Madison?
Yeah, right. Wink, wink. No, it's Heather. Okay, great. How old are you?
You didn't get the joke.
No,
exactly. Okay, yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, what you got there? Some sushi. So, and they headed off, whatever. And so he starts meeting her in the middle of the night. It turns out the wife was on this hiking trip and got bitten by a werewolf. So she's leaving in the middle of the night on like full moons or whatever to go hunting for the food she needs to eat and fulfill her werewolf self, not cheating on her husband. And I think what ends up happening in the third act or whatever, or the second act, most of this movie could be the wife werewolf hunting her now cheating husband and his new flame. And yeah, it's just like them trying to escape this werewolf lady. And maybe as the audience don't even know that it's the wife. Maybe you do. We can figure that out if we go with it. But that's what I'm seeing. The midnight snack that starts out as this husband cheating on his wife. Maybe the last midnight snack is the wife getting revenge and devouring them both as a werewolf.
Yeah, I love that. I would want that movie to be like subtly hinting at like maybe the dirty shoes or
exactly
like her shirt was ripped and he's like,
scratching
oh
her
God,
ear with her foot.
She's doing weird sex with some guy. I need to instead of communicate or ask a question, I need to take this to the next level. I'm going to find a little snack myself. And the movie ends up being about that, like about the cheating husband and how he feels wronged and he's trying to break out of this marriage, but he's not saying anything to his wife. And then I love that like the last 5-minute scene is them getting together talking about how that he's going to get a divorce and they're getting ready to do midnight snack stuff. And the werewolf, you see the werewolf pop up and it's wearing like the wife's shirt or something and just lunging, and then it's a blood fest.
It could even be she devours the girlfriend, and it's him and his werewolf wife, and she swipes at him and he sees her wedding ring on her on the werewolf claw, and he's like, oh my God, my grandmother's ring. Did you eat my wife? Whatever. And he figures out, it could end like that. It could end, I don't know. That ending, we could go a couple different ways, because I imagine in the movie you'll be cheering for the wife, not the cheating husband. But maybe, I don't know, maybe we can play with it where at the end you're kind of left to figure out, what do we do? What happens? Does she just bite the husband and turn him into a werewolf too because she loves him? I don't know. We can have fun with that and go soapy with it, or just have him.
I like the vengeance. Like the husband was doing wrong things. He was negligent in asking his wife, like, what's going on with you? I noticed this stuff. And, you know, like maybe there's a way you could bring him back and try and bring some sort of equalizer in a Harrison end of film flip.
Right. He'd have to not be that bad. He'd have to not have cheated yet, but just be like meeting this woman in the woods or something.
Yeah, and if it's a midnight snack, right? He's like going out to the neon clubs and picking up strange different girls all the time.
Gross. Right.
Oh, last night I picked up a redheaded girl. She's not here tonight. Like, no, the werewolf got her. Well, will you come home with me tonight?
Maybe that's it. Maybe he is like, it's multiple women and the wife werewolf like can smell her husband on all of them and goes and murders them one by one. Ooh. And so the cops find out about that and are like, all these women, the last person they were with is this guy. And so he's like a suspect. Maybe that could be how she gets him, where basically she pins all these murders of these. She lets him live, but he goes down for all these crimes of killing all these women because he's like the last person to see them alive before his werewolf wife eats them all. We could have fun with it in the end. And her vengeance
she bites
could be
his
different.
dick off.
Yeah, it could happen too.
Yeah,
The audience loves that. Everyone loves.
But lets him live. Lorena Bearwolf. Yeah.
That's right. Oh, man. That could be... Okay, cool. So we have a couple options there, but that'd be fun to... a good little midnight snack there. Is the penis the midnight snack?
There will be lots of ways you can decide what the midnight snack actually was. Like was it one of the girls?
Yep.
Yeah, was
all
it
the girls?
Yeah. All right, that ended up being kind of fun. Yeah, had 2 beers in, coming up on number 3. This is usually when things take a turn for the worse. We said it would get weird at 3, and this one we might have to force, but I'm getting less puns and more pumpkin. So we're gonna come into this beer checked in by Jarrett, made by Prairie Artisan Ales. So we already know it tastes good. They're calling it Pumpkin Pie Treat.
Pumpkin pie, and it's a sour with pumpkin.
That's a fun spin.
Yeah, that's a treat, if you will. Pumpkin pie treat. What are you getting, John? What's
It's honestly just like the definition of a pumpkin pie.
Yes.
So, I mean, I feel like it shouldn't. I have such a hard time being creative. The whole movie is just the theme is pumpkin pie as a treat. Right. What is this, like a first grade teacher teaching poor kids and she brings them pumpkin pie?
The first time
is this like a food truck lady in New York City that like, oh, and I'll give you a little pumpkin pie treat and it's full of glass? I don't know how.
It's a horrible business model.
Yeah.
So
my husband's a dentist, though.
That's right. Emergency, the only emergency dentist in town. Wow, that would be quite the racket. Okay, that's interesting. What if instead we go the kind of, so pumpkins, it's Halloween time. Let's bring in a witch. Let's have a bunch of kids trapped at her house, or just there, maybe under a spell, whatever. That they're kids at this creepy-ish woman's house who maybe is also terrifyingly beautiful. And
I'm in.
Right, everyone's in. We're selling tickets. And right, she like makes a pumpkin pie every night and the kids have it. Some kids like it more than others. Maybe obviously there's something in the pie. And maybe like the more you eat it, the harder it is to leave or something like that. And then the one kid ends up in the basement and before you know it is in the next pumpkin pie for the next batch of kids. It's just a way of luring kids in with this
could
treat.
Be kind of like the kids are also recruiting for her. We do this a lot. It makes me think of Big Nose already. Yeah. But the kids are like, whenever the kid brings a new kid in, like, oh, we do a treat and we get pumpkin pie after awful dinner because witch mom is a bad cook.
Right.
But her pumpkin pie is good. So the new kid eats the pie. And that like casts enough of a spell where he's like, you know what? I could probably spend the night with you guys. pie again. Great, glad you're here. And now
pie.
he doesn't want to leave.
This is how I would die. This is exactly how I go. This is some woman
This
in
is
the woods
happening at Trader Joe's instead.
It's 5:30. Didn't you say you have to pick your kids up at school a little while ago? They're fine.
They're doing samples again.
They'll walk home.
There's a new sample girl coming in. Her shift's changing.
Something's different about her pie. That'll get you in trouble. Yes, Your Honor.
So it's a witch that's using her pumpkin pie treat to lure kids in. Obviously, it's a witch, so we know she drinks their blood or something.
She eats them, yeah, or a combination. Yeah, so there's not, I don't have a ton there, but it's, you know, something like that. And is the story following the one kid who tries to break the spell? Is it?
Ooh, yeah.
You know?
He's a diabetic kid.
Oh,
and
they picked the wrong one.
Finally, our chance to show evolution wasn't wrong about us.
The survival tactic.
He's like, well, I can't eat the pie. I don't have enough insulin with me. I'll just have like maybe a little bite of it, you know, out of respect.
Right.
And then he leaves. He's able to leave.
Tries to leave, but the woods keep sending him in circles or something. Yeah, I mean, this could, yeah, I like that. He meets someone, now I'm a lumberjack in the woods.
Perfect, yep.
Also, they get back to the cabin together, and the kid's trying to be like, you can't trust her. She's a witch with magical pumpkin pie.
But she's really hot.
Exactly. It's Angelina Jolie that walks out, and the guy's like, oh, I'll find out for myself, guy. Let's play. Let's rest here tonight.
Did you say rich?
Yeah. Rich or witch?
Yeah, look at all these kids. You have some.
She can't be that bad.
You must have done a lot.
Right. Where's I'm not gonna ask where the husband is. I'm just gonna ask for more pie. And then the lumberjack's dead, and the kid's like, ah. So it could be right. This poor diabetic kid, blood sugar crashing in the woods, racing against time and his failing pancreas to get out of there. And not keep finding adults who take him right back to the cabin and instantly fall in love with Angelina Jolie and then eat her pie.
There's this guy witch who's really rotund and ugly and stinks.
Yes.
And he's trying to capture me.
Right.
That's like the one, it's like a gay hunter.
That's it. Perfect.
Really? Like, I don't know. Let's go take a look and get you back to your mom and dad.
That's
son.
right. Exactly. Not doing anything for me. The way you decorated this place is horrible. I'll see. Well, like kids in cages here. A little too much for my. Wait a second. You're not a nice lady at all. Yeah. So that could. And again, that's what I've got for pumpkin pie treat. It just makes me want to eat pumpkin pie, but be careful who I eat it from because it may cost me my life.
Yeah, I mean, really, that is like a Hollywooded up version of Harrison going to Trader Joe's in Q4.
Exactly. Or Costco, whenever they open up their, you know, the pumpkin pie that's the size of a truck tire. That is a
pumpkin pie treat.
You're just, give me a shovel. Oh, I can't wait. The season is upon us. But yeah, that's good. We got a witch in, we got some pumpkin pie, and this is good.
There was some sort of magic in the pumpkin pie.
Or the power of Jolie.
Be surprised to hear that's probably not going to become the feature, but it is our third Fast Five, and we're looking for number 4. For number 4 tonight, this one, we've seen this beer come a few times in a few different variants, and I always have a hard time because it's like 2 movies in one.
Right.
So tonight, Michael gives us from New Belgium Brewing Company, Voodoo Ranger Atomic Pumpkin.
Yes. Love it.
Which this one, is this the one that has a little bit of spice in it?
Spicy. I don't remember if they name the pepper or just say habanero
chili.
Nice. And cinnamon. Yeah, it's a fun pumpkin beer. Again, a little different. The heat and the spice, it all works. I think the first year it came out. Okay, so I think we have a little bit of flexibility here, but can have fun as always. So what if the movie is just called, because Voodoo Ranger's the brand. I know it's made by New Belgium, but it's kind of like saying Sam Adams Boston Lager. Like, you just say Boston Lager, even though the beer company is Boston Beer and Sam Adams. We don't need to get into that. It doesn't matter. Anyway.
Like, you don't have to say Marvel Spider-Man.
Right.
You can just say Spider-Man.
Exactly.
So it's like the Voodoo Ranger universe.
Yeah, so we're in the Voodoo Ranger universe. I like that. Let's do that. The name is Atomic Pumpkin. That's the movie title.
A Voodoo Ranger film.
Right.
Like small font underneath.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see even more now. And what if Atomic Pumpkin is like the name of a operation, a code name for an operation that went south. Say like we sent a bunch of people behind enemy lines to irradiate a enemy combatants' food supply.
We take out all their gourds.
There you go. Yeah, like we can't survive without winter squash. For whatever, I don't know where this is in
They're
the
fighting
world.
the Turkish.
It's the only crop that'll grow in the sand. And so melons do grow well in sandy soil. But anyway, it's not important. So
Just want to let you know there's a little bit of science behind this.
Right. We're not just throwing things out there. I mean, we are. But so
wait, are melons gourds?
I don't know. You're also right. They look, I don't know.
I mean, you could tell me yes, and I wouldn't fact check it.
Oh boy. Tonight they are. But atomic pumpkin, so this mission that fails, they try to destroy these crops. Doesn't work, and maybe like the chemical or the radiation they use to try to secretly do this, surprise, instead of killing the enemy combatants, turns them into like super soldiers, and it's up to the finest, the best of the best, the Voodoo Ranger, to go in there and, you know, like Rambo them all to death.
Is there only one? There's only one Voodoo Ranger, or is it?
I don't know if he's like Superman or if it's like the Voodoo Rangers drop in, who are also basically science projects themselves and superhuman, or like Universal Soldier brought back from the dead, and
A bunch of dudes that look like they're from Denver.
Right. I love that. And yeah, so it could be two, it could be one, it could be a group. I think we can figure that out. But that's the gist, is right. You've got Voodoo Ranger coming in, who doesn't exist, and you know is off the radar, taking out this covering this mistake, or trying to cover up this mistake, and then maybe like Rambo 2, he kind of like meets the locals and is like, "This is wrong. What happened to you? I'm gonna make it right." And eats some of the irradiated gourds himself and becomes even stronger, and then takes out the evil general that greenlit the plan. I don't know. It could be very 80s like that.
I agree. Like, I like the Rambo sort of, I don't know, like Born Identity sort of.
Yeah,
it's a trilogy, or it's a universe.
Yes.
But we don't, it's not really about the Voodoo Ranger. It's about this botched operation. Well, it doesn't even have to be American military. It can just be like Europa military
right.
is going to run this thing to squash the rebels and poison their gourds. And I like that it goes wrong, and like the genes mutate in their muscles, so now we get these like 10 feet tall giants that are able to throw cars at helicopters.
Right.
We're gonna have to send in you know who again.
Wake him up.
I want him to be exactly like he's like inside. He's not a coffin, but he's inside like maybe like a long file cabinet they have to pull out, and he just pops up
out.
Where am I going?
Cracks his neck. My time again. Right. His head falls
They give
off.
him they just give him like a GPS coordinates, and he's gone. He just walks out of the office.
Right.
He's gone.
Walks through the bottom of the ocean, walks up on the shore. I'm here. Punches the first bad guy he sees and steals his gun. Doesn't need any supplies. He's the Voodoo Ranger. Should he do voodoo magic? He
Okay. I think if you want to break him down,
right,
it's voodoo magic that is allowing him to work, which is why he has no fear.
There we
kind
go.
of like almost like a drone strike.
Yes.
There's this voodoo person
Yes.
that's at the agency, and
Yes.
he's just like playing with like like the little like rock'em sock'em robots.
Exactly right.
Punch, yeah,
Right.
punch.
Voodoo Ranger's just yelling
jump,
back
flip.
right to the back. I need to pee. Make me pee. Allow me to pee. No, we can't right now, Voodoo Ranger. We got to keep
We
going.
got a lot of bad guys to fight. Don't you worry. Here, I'll squeeze your belly if you don't shut up.
That's the only downside, is you can't do anything unless Chet does it to your voodoo doll first. That would be hilarious.
Oh, it almost gives me like Team America vibes a little bit.
Right. And it's a drone. He's a crazy voodified drone that's still alive. Oh my gosh. And maybe that's what this first Voodoo Ranger movie is about, is him freeing himself from the this voodoo curse, maybe. he's there to try to take out these bad guys, but then maybe a local voodoo person recognizes he's under some spell, frees him, and he's like, oh my gosh, what happened to you poor people?
Yeah, like blow some sage at him or something. He's got a moment of clarity. I just blinked my own eyes. I just blinked.
Immediately pees his pants. Like, oh my God, what did you do to this poor guy? Thank you.
Oh, I love that, because then through this storytelling, he starts to break free, almost like when we go to was it Rare Snack that the kid had to keep zapping himself?
Yes, Rare Snack
keep tasing himself
to keep the AI out of his head. Yes.
So this sort of good voodoo person is able to sage him and give him moments of clarity.
I love that.
And then he learns that really it's the people that were controlling him that were the bad guys. We learned this at the end of the movie. Now you're in the Voodoo Ranger universe. Now we're with the rebels. It's almost like Dune too a little bit, but
yes.
Now we need to go back and we need to get these rebels and this new sort of controlled Voodoo Ranger.
Make the Voodoo Ranger Brigade or whatever, and that's with like the mutant pumpkin guy and water lady, and
water lady's badass too. You want to watch for her.
Exactly right.
She can squirt.
But if it's too humid, she just disappears. I can't be up here right now. I'm going into the cloud again. I'll see you in 3 months when I come back as groundwater.
We'll make everything uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Honestly, I didn't think we were going to get there, but I kind of like that.
I like that too.
Is part one of a series.
Captain Planet and the Toxic Avenger. That's what this is good. This is good.
The Voodoo Ranger, super badass, ends up having to fight for his own freedom against all odds.
That's it.
And maybe eats one of the radiated pumpkins and starts to grow a little bit of skin back or 100%. Something.
Oh, yeah. And that's his quest, right? Is to no longer be just skin and bones running around.
Yeah. I don't even know how I make pee.
Exactly. I don't even know who I look like, right? I don't have a bladder, but I have a pain where my bladder was.
Yes.
All right.
Phantom pee syndrome. That wasn't bad for number 4. Let's get another one in here because it is the Fast Five.
Yes, indeed.
To round out this one, beer number 5 tonight, given to us by Lauren. Thank you, Lauren, from Evil Twin Brewing.
Nice.
What even is pumpkin spice?
That's a great question. And I think we kind of understand it, right? There's some cinnamon, there's some ginger, there's some nutmeg, there's some other things, but
I hear allspice, I hear clove, I hear brown sugar. I never hear pumpkin. It's effectively, I think pumpkin spice is just fancy cinnamon.
That's a great, right? Cinnamon
and something.
Cinnamon going to the prom.
Which honestly, that is I like. Your pumpkin spice has become its own brand, much like Voodoo Ranger in the beer world. But that I don't see like
it's in everything.
Raspberry pie spice or chocolate chip spice. I guess that
they're doing well. Doing okay.
Yeah.
Well, chocolate chips are doing okay, but you're right. Like we've been talking about a couple times tonight. It's pumpkin pie candy and cookies and candles and there's pumpkin pie spice and everything. So what if this question, I like this. What if it's like a grand conspiracy by the government, the reptile overlords, something,
Kanye West,
Oprah Winfrey, whatever. And, and like, right. For years, again, this nefarious, shadowy group of people, creatures, interdimensional beings have basically been pushing pumpkin spice on the populace because that spice hides really well, chemical 0013 that allows us to use mind control whenever we want. And so it's like the fluoride in the drinking water. It's in all these things.
They've started to catch on to the fluoride. Right? We're getting kickbacks on vaccines.
Yep. What's next? What do people love? What are you drinking on there, Ted? That's my pumpkin spice latte.
No one eats the fruit cake for Christmas that we tried.
That was a big fail. Yeah. We thought that was fruit. Everyone loves fruit. Everyone loves cake. Together,
we had to fire Larry over that poor guy.
So they've tried things in the past. They've all failed, but pumpkin spice is this winner. And I think so. That's the the world, and whether we give that away in exposition in the beginning or not, I think what the story is like some kid working at Starbucks, the greatest coffee chain in the world, famous for their pumpkin spicy coffees. Like, you know, overhears something work one day that they shouldn't. That kind of sends them on this path, this maze of an adventure where they follow like the delivery guy that dropped off the pumpkin spice, who says something about this batch is stronger than the last, or we're going to get them. This will be the one that seals the deal, and to an unmarked warehouse. And there's an underground. It's similar to Rare Snack. There's an underground, you know, layer, whatever. But that's what the movie is about. It's kind of uncovering this large pumpkin spice conspiracy, very much like They Live, where once you know about it, now the world is pumpkin spice is everywhere. It's in my Glade plug-in. It's in my shower curtain somehow. It's
Greatest
my body
fist
rub.
fight scene ever.
Right.
Put these sunglasses on.
Oh my God. Right. You see people drooling like they're walking like out of a Bed Bath & Beyond with pumpkin spice candles into a Starbucks buying more pumpkin spice coffee.
It has gotten to, like what I was saying earlier, pumpkin spice bread, cereal, candy,
It's
cookies.
right.
There's, I think, pumpkin spice lasagna.
I'm sure there is. And that's their plan, is to one day pull it all away. And then they know people will be like, we'll do anything to give us the pumpkin spice. We'll do whatever you want.
It's affected almost everyone, you know, especially this time of year. There's the loud spoken proponents, and then there's the people that bash it, but then go home and secretly eat it.
Huff it. Yep, exactly.
Oh, you kids with your pumpkins, you guys are soft Nancy's. Anyways, I'm going home to eat my JoJo's. Leave me alone.
And maybe it's like one of the Starbucks employees is like nose blind, can't spell anything anyway, and it's been this horribly bland existence for them, but also means they're immune to the pumpkin spice anything, haven't ever had any. And so that's how they're able to kind of navigate and be the one needed to crack the code and free the world from this pumpkin spice zombie state.
I like the idea that the basic story or like the basic premise of the film then becomes this barista who's trying to track down like what actually is going on with pumpkin spice. Right. Was it just a botched delivery? Was there a recall? Yeah. Nah, that unmarked, the things are getting fishy, and it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. And then maybe there's like two guys in a Lexus outside his house all the time now. Yeah. Like he sees them taking pictures. He's like, all right, I'm like dangerously close to something. I don't know what the hell it is, but
I love that. Lists some help from some other misfits, and together they use their skills to get to the bottom of it, or maybe get lost in the process. Again, the ending will always figure out if it becomes a feature, but I like the start of this, kind of mysterious, a good thriller, but goofy because we're hunting down pumpkin spice, the pumpkin spice boys.
And it's kind of fun to do, this is almost like an anti-pumpkin spice movie.
Right.
Which so far we've done a lot of pumpkin themed beer movies. So I like this as being a little bit of a breath of fresh air. For number 5, what do you feel like, Harrison? Do you want to do our first Fast 5, or do you want to add a couple more?
We should ultimatum.
I knew that was going to be the answer.
As is tradition. I want to see what other pumpkin beers we can kick up, since this is your night to shine. Not that we won't do them if it has a great name, later, but let's see how many we can cram. Let's do at least 2.
Sounds good. Let's do 2. Sometimes ultimatums give you exactly what you're looking for. Ooh. Thanks, Curtis. This beer comes from Fourscore Beer Co., and it's called Let the Gourd Times Roll.
Finally, some puns.
Yes, this is what I've been waiting for.
Looks good, too. Sounds good.
Big 11% stout.
Look out. Marshmallow chocolate. Goodness gracious. Okay. All right. What do you let the gourd times roll? So that makes me chuckle.
Yep. That's a lot of times I get stuck on those.
I know.
Let the gourd times roll. I want it to be maybe, can we go bowling with pumpkins? Like,
okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, no, I like this. What's more obscure? What can we do? Bowling's been done. Is there
I've seen a lot of YouTube shorts where some country throws a bunch of cheese down a hill, and everyone has to chase it, and people get hurt, but it's funny.
All you win is a hospital bill.
Yeah.
Although I guess in Europe you don't have those, so
true.
It's easier to break your ankle in a field and not feel like your life's going to end because of it. That must be nice. So, but let's have fun with that. So instead of a wheel of cheese, it's some local tradition or whatever. You got to chase a pumpkin down a hill, and the winner gets, I don't know, $10,000 or the key to the city, something of value, a trophy. But well, maybe it's just about bragging.
Maybe
rights.
like city parking. You can park for free in the city. I don't know why I made that up, but it sounds so
something
nice.
Like that. It does have freedom.
You just put the Gourd Times winner bumper sticker on, and you can park any metered spot for free.
That's right, anywhere for free. So it's
sell that car for like $3 million in New York.
So something like that, and it's the story of the neighborhood kind of people who are at odds with each other for whatever. Your fence is too high, your grass is too low, your dog is too loud. It's just a bunch of dumb crap. Decide to throw down in the Gourd Times roll off this season, and whoever wins also gets to do whatever they want, to break HOA rules for a year. Something, again, we'll figure out the details, but something like that. This is for some reason important to me. They get to be. That's how you become the HOA leader. Right. You win.
Yep.
You win.
I'm gonna make you paint your house orange.
That's right. Everyone's house is gonna be orange.
It's the worst thing.
If he wins, I'm leaving this country. So a lot at stake here in the Gourd Times Roll Fest, or whatever we're going to call the actual thing. And so it's a kind of a Rocky style movie where you're following all these people training, getting run over by pumpkins as they try to beat them down a hill, trying to get stronger, faster, leaner, all that stuff that can be, and we can have a bunch of funny montages. And again, don't know how it ends, but could see that being a great kind of climactic race down the hill.
Probably Dolph Lundgren's in it.
Yeah, we get a great cameos from some classic 80s movies.
Training. I like training. So basically it ends. I like this being local, like even in America somewhere, probably in Ohio.
Yes.
I don't know. It makes sense.
It does.
And it's like a neighbor, like a small town tradition. Like that's Dogfish had got their start making pumpkin ale, right? Like it's some small town.
And it won at the pumpkin. It was like a pumpkin chunkin competition where they launched pumpkins and he entered the beer into some category at that fair, and it won. Something like that. So like this probably happens in a lot of small towns. Here it's the roll off where they throw a gourd, usually a pumpkin, down the hill. Whoever catches the pumpkin is the one that wins. So you gotta you're either first down the hill or you're faster than it is falling. Right.
And so it's a pretty heated, they have one for the kids, and then they have one for everyone, and then they have like the serious one,
the official
where
one.
They like till up the hill and throw some water down it and
good,
stuff.
Right. It could be like dodgeball, where there's kind of, you have to go through a few different rounds to get to the final gourd off, where it's the highest hill in town and the fastest, slipperiest pumpkin. Or whatever.
Exactly. They grease up the candy squashers.
That's it. And they shoot it out of a cannon.
But the winner is effectively like not the mayor, but like he's the one, you can't park your cars in the road anymore.
Right. You're the king of the town for a year.
Can't leave packages on your front porch. Maybe the winner is cool. Maybe you're like, God, I really hope Tommy wins again, because he seems like a pretty chill dude. But that new guy, Blair.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to plant boxwoods all up and down the road for a year.
Ideas. That Blair guy, don't trust him. I think we have a lot of. That'd be a funny movie. We'd pull from a lot of old school dodgeball type films, and it'd be goofy. Again, I don't know how it ends. Does no one win? Does someone surprising win? I don't know. That'd be fun to figure out, though.
I agree. We'll see if we do have to figure it out
in
a little bit. We got one more ultimatum to dig through here. Let the gourd times
Gourd
roll.
times roll.
All right, and our last ultimatum is coming from out west. It's coming from Brent, but Bottle Logic gives us a pumpkin beer with a really interesting name, so we could probably have some fun with this. It's called Picture If You Will.
If you will. Picture a lot of things. A pumpkin, obviously. Thinking about that. Okay, you're right. This is not your traditional pumpkin blank.
No,
beer.
pumpkin's
not even
nowhere in the name.
Love that.
I kind of wanted to double check, but
spicing us up a little bit.
Your next stop, the Pumpkin Zone. Right from there.
Ooh, the Pumpkin Zone. That sounds fun. Maybe also dangerous.
Is Picture If You Will, is that like part of the Twilight Zone's intro or something?
Yes. That's how what's his face started each one out. What do you have, John?
Well, nothing, but I love the Twilight Zone. It's hard to make, like, the Twilight Zone movie kind of sucked compared to the series. The idea was you get these different stories and week after week. I'm not even going to pretend I wasn't around in the black and white Twilight Zone era,
like
but
Sci-Fi Channel used to replay them all when I was in high school. Definitely watched a few. Cool as heck. All right.
So
what are we doing with Picture If You Will?
Well, my first thought I had...
Yeah, we can go whatever way.
If you can sci-fi Twilight Zone this, if anyone can do it, you can. So
okay.
My first thought, Picture If You Will, was a phrase or a version of a phrase I would use often when my job was sales.
Yes.
Something like imagine, with usually the concept being like, picture if you will, you're on your second 2-week vacation of the year because your business is running twice as smooth and you don't have to go through and redo all the paperwork and things are working like they should. And that's what I'm offering. I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Right.
So it was like a way to kind of get your point across. I think if you're a good salesperson, you have a service that will actually benefit the person you're trying to sell it to, but you can't come off and say, I'm trying to sell this to you, because everyone shuts down, myself included.
Yep.
So picture, if you will, the story of probably a man who has I'm thinking he has a pumpkin patch, and it's like kind of pre-Halloween. Not the season, but like pre-Halloween, the celebration that we know.
Right.
And these pumpkins, like, people are like, nah, I kind of like potatoes better.
Right.
I get the butternut squash. You're like, pumpkins are fine, but they're messy. And I don't care. I'll buy the seeds maybe, but I don't care about pumpkins. So what's he going to do now? His whole life, his stock is about to go to waste. So he's got to figure out a way to sell these pumpkins, which turns into like, picture if you will, the Hallows Eve is coming. Oh yeah, usually we don't celebrate pagan holidays, but there's this new thing that I'm also introducing through my printed newsletter, where people are going to start coming to your house asking for candy. And the way that you let them know that you have candy is by putting one of these pumpkins out in front of your house. And you can even get creative and like carve a face into it. You don't even have to be talented. It's just triangle eyes. Exactly. Here, I'll show you one. Picture, if you will, all these houses, all these pumpkins. Your kids on the night of Halloween, they go door to door and they come back with all these fruits and vegetables, maybe candy, but you're not going to sell it to mom and dad by offering.
Well, you get the kids out of the house for 3 hours.
There you go.
All right, I'm listening.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Bunch of strange kids you can trade. You can look for a better one.
Give your old food away instead of throwing it away to the neighborhood kids.
All this is possible. Picture if you will. All you have to do is just buy one of my pumpkins.
And if you don't buy one, we'll label you a communist. All right, well, give me 3.
Basically, I love it because like no one wants to eat a pumpkin.
Right.
Even pumpkin pie, I'm pretty sure, is basically just
spices,
jelly, and crust.
Yeah.
So like no one wants to eat these things. So what are we gonna do? Let's get creative. Let's chop them up.
That's it. And he has to partner with the biggest farm in town. Hasn't grown a thing in years because it's too sandy in the soil or whatever. And he's like, no, you sit in a gold mine, a pumpkin gold mine. I like this. He's selling the idea of a future filled with, for one night at least, pumpkins everywhere, and that becomes a way to show your status in town and be part of the community. And really, he probably figures out, like, if I just get if I get 30% or 4 houses to do it, then the neighbors will want to compete with them, and they'll want to have more pumpkins, and then someone will try to have the most pumpkins in town, and someone will try to beat them. Like, it's gold, Jerry, gold. I'm sitting on it.
Yes, maybe even gives a few
sure.
to like the nicer, keeping up with the the Johnsons or whatever.
We can get the Johnsons on board.
You guys can have. I even carved one for you, and I put a J in it. So if you want, I'll do the OHNSON.
Right, your whole porch. I'll cover the whole thing. Isn't this a house fire hazard? Don't worry about that.
LEDs haven't been invented yet.
Right.
But
you have asbestos, right?
Fine.
Asbestos is everywhere.
Pumpkins don't burn. Look at it. He's like holding it over.
Right. Oh, I love this. That's the origin of why pumpkins and Halloween are together. And it wasn't some pagan thing. It was just a good salesperson, which is, I like that story. It's different. Probably put a pin in where the pumpkin and Halloween marriage first began in the Dust Bowl or whatever.
I don't know. Halloween's probably got its roots in a much older thing than I know. For me, it began sometime around like 1986, 87,
exactly,
when I learned that I could get candy. And honestly, I stopped learning after that. Great.
Right. Instead of it being a holiday powered by the candy companies, maybe it started by a simple salesman with a dream to get rid of his pumpkins.
True.
And turned it into an empire. But unfortunately, patented nothing and instead was essentially just giving his idea away for free. And he died a poor man, but a happy man. That could be fun, a little different.
I mean, and my wife still is like, I want to get a pumpkin. I want to get another. I'm like, when's the last time anyone bought a pumpkin to eat? Never. So you just want to get a pumpkin to cut up and put on the porch and throw away. You just but every grocery store is full of them because everyone wants to. God, he was a good salesman. This made up guy.
He saw the Johnny Appleseed of pumpkins, Bobby Pumpkinhead.
True. There's zucchini people. They're like, I wish we could get what they have.
We paint the zucchinis orange. What is it? Because they're orange. Why the pumpkin? What happened?
We can carve them. Nah, don't carve them like that.
Definitely don't carve like a zucchini. Right.
And you could maybe add some Twilight Zone-y stuff. People don't have pumpkins, get body snatched or something. But
there you go.
I think it would work almost as like a sort of historic retelling.
I like that too. That's a completely different take on it, but right, he comes to the town thinking like with a bit of a panicked message of you've got to do this, you got to put the pumpkins on your porch, and it has to be before midnight tonight, and I can't tell you why. And then just the great pumpkin swoops through and takes all the people that don't have pumpkins on their front step, and that's how it begins. Oh my gosh, we can go that way too. But I like the salesman approach. I think that's a different movie. We always introduce some supernatural beast to these movies because it's fun.
We could keep this just purely human interactions.
Right, we could. But that's not as fun. That's not the Beer in That Movie way. Maybe there'll be a monster. Maybe there won't. Maybe we'll find out if we pick this as the feature, or maybe it'll just live in that in-between world in all of our imaginations where it ends however you want it to end.
True. Like maybe we did make a tworking movie.
Maybe we did.
But
about Russell Brand and Whoopi Goldberg falling in love in Oktoberfest.
The movies you create on your own, of your own record.
That's
Harrison, are you listening to me? Yeah. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm just working some things out in my head right now.
I can see it. I can see the lederhosen.
Lederhosen. Great grandfather.
Gonna travel back in time to change the size of the lederhosen. That's the easiest way, isn't it?
Oh God. Okay, so we don't have an easy task tonight, but we did make it through 5 beers with 2 ultimatums, and the theme of pumpkin rang throughout.
Exciting. Now we got to pick one, which is always the hardest part. Well, sometimes the hardest. Sometimes we know from the first beer what we're going to come back to. I don't know if we know that tonight.
Well, fortunately, I did this novel thing where I actually wrote the movies down.
So you don't get to see us panic for 3 minutes trying to remember things.
If you're looking for that, just go back and watch every other Fast Five.
Right, and the next one, which we'll forget next time.
You're probably right, Harrison.
Tonight we didn't.
I'm going to list them out, and if one of them jumps out at you, there's one that I think I'm leaning on as my favorite, but there's also a close backup. So here we go, in order.
That's right. Forgot him already. Anyway, go ahead. Yes, John.
Pumpkinhead.
Yep.
Midnight Snack. Nice. Pumpkin Pie Treat.
Oh, yeah.
Hot Witch. That's all I remember.
Yep.
Voodoo Ranger, Atomic Pumpkin Force, the Voodoo Ranger universe. What even is pumpkin spice? The story of like the government controlling pumpkin spice, if something like that. Let the Gourd Times Roll, where we're competing to run the HOA by chasing a gourd down a hill.
Yeah.
And finally, the last one, picture, if you will, the story of why we have pumpkins everywhere this time of year.
Ooh. So we start eliminating them?
Yep.
All right. Oh, shoot.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Hopefully I don't
great.
eliminate the one you're thinking of.
I don't even know. Yeah, no.
I'm going to eliminate pumpkin pie treat.
Fine. Yeah, that was fun, but it's just not, it's not gonna, yeah, I can't do that without it just becoming Hansel and Gretel. All right, so that one's out. Gosh. I mean, pumpkin head is funny. It's a little big nosy, but that's okay. We can do it differently. I like that one.
I love pumpkin head.
All right, good. I like midnight snack. That's also kind of big nosy. But we've done rare snack already. I don't know if that's, again, it's in the running. It's a fair play. We could pick that. What's the one I don't? Oh man. I mean, Atomic Pumpkin would be hilarious. But we almost did that entire movie. That's one of those
we
ones
did
where
kind of map that out.
Gosh. But it would be fun to begin the Voodoo Ranger universe tonight, because we come across those beers a lot, and now now all the juice force and whatever fruit force, those are sequels to something if we make a feature out of it. But I don't know if we kind of did a lot with it already.
There's not much left to fill in.
Right. So maybe that one, we boot that one out next. We can chill in the vault. You're yelling at your car radio right now that you wanted Voodoo Ranger. I'm sorry. But it doesn't mean it's dead forever.
Yeah, don't yell at your car radio. Yell at Harrison on social media.
Right, tell
me that movie.
Tag things. Make a big deal about it publicly. Don't keep it to yourself. Okay.
So then I will drop what even is pumpkin spice.
All right.
Was that I'm sorry if that was one of your.
That's fine.
I like that one, but I also remember that we didn't have much of an idea of where that was going to wrap.
Yeah, we didn't.
So, I mean, plus there's one on the board that I really like.
Okay, well, let's do that then. What?
John,
which
one are you thinking of?
I don't know. You said Pumpkinhead, got excited. Which one, John?
I like.
Be true to yourself.
I like Pumpkinhead was the first one we did, but I like and it really, I'll tell you why. I like the story of like, we always do this, but it's like the kid that's having a rough time, and then he comes back and he kills all the other kids. I mean, it's not exact, but like, if you really, really simplify it, it's just a story of like, don't be an asshole.
Sure. Karma's coming with a flaming pumpkin head.
Oh God, that's a brilliant trailer.
And then he can kill them with all the things that they did to him, swirly someone to death, wedgie someone to death.
Oh anyway. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like that could be hopefully a teaching moment for one person in the future of humanity. Yes. And also it is kind of gives me that like feel good vibes that we were talking about earlier.
I mean, he's still going to end the movie being a dead zombie flaming pumpkin guy. I don't know how happy.
But he's just going to go after bullies.
You're right.
So I mean, okay, that's my pick. If we're ceasing eliminating people, it doesn't sound like that was your pick.
I didn't have one. I mean, I like Midnight Snack, but it's, again, we did. I keep going back to that. It was between Pumpkinhead and Midnight Snack, probably, if I'm honest. Yeah. So I'm happy to go do Pumpkinhead, one of the most checked into pumpkin beers. But for this week, a submission from Tom kicked this thing off, which is super exciting.
And bad news for you, Tom, because you're probably going to be...
That's right. You're going to be Pumpkinhead.
You're going to be the kid that gets bullied.
But also becomes the hero, and you get superpowers.
True.
I mean, you're a zombie technically, but you also have superpowers. So, it evens out. More than evens out.
A lot of people would probably make that trade.
Pumpkinhead.
Plus, you have a really loyal horse.
Right. You have some sweet T-shirts. This is fun. Him meeting the horse will be exciting. That'll be a big moment. That's probably how the movie ends. It's like rams someone to death with the horse. We'll get there. I think we're gonna get there tonight.
We'll see you next week when we release the feature film. What is it? I don't even know. One of our, we're about halfway through feature film. So let's not even try and put a number on it. Let's do what we always do.
Next week. That's what editing's for. So until next week, peace.
Punch.
Give me your
pumpkin.
Yeah, there it is.